had this song really together for a while, but hopefully it'll be good. It'll be good. It's gonna be great. Knock your sacks out.
When you look around Seattle Pacific University's campus, you'll notice a lot of red brick. I guess that's kind of an SPU thing, and it goes back to the very beginning. SPU's oldest building was referred to as the Red Brick Building for many years.
If you were a student back when the Red Brick Building was built, you probably would have been 8 or 9. That's because what eventually became SPU started out as an elementary school founded by the Free Methodist Church in 1891. The founders envisioned a Christian school that prepared its pupils for missionary service, taught hygiene to young people, and was committed to the liberal arts. The Red Brick Building, which still stands today, was eventually named after the school's first president, Alexander Beers. But it was called Alexander Hall instead of Beers Hall, which may, of course, have been problematic.
Under the direction of Beers, Seattle Seminary added a high school and eventually a full college program in 1913. But it's been 100 years since the first edition of the Cascade, that's SPU's yearbook. A lot has happened since then. What we're interested in is how SPU has changed and also what stayed the same.
Like, are the lives of students today anything like the lives of 1911 students, Elvis Cochrane, and Mabel Barnhart?
Over time, SPU has definitely evolved, but at its core, it has always been about the same things.
One of the 3 founders of SPU, Hiram Peace, was very concerned with healthful eating and exercise. The first Seattle Pacific students played intramural tennis, baseball, and basketball in their rudimentary gym.
At first, SPC, it was still a college back then, wasn't allowed to compete against other schools due to their possible bad influence. But in 1930, the men's basketball team was allowed to play against the College of Puget Sound and the UW freshman team. They were horribly defeated.
But things got better. In 1934, the Falcon was chosen as a mascot because of its swiftness, bravery, and fairness in battle, traits exhibited by all SPU students ever since.
Early on, popular sports for women were archery and volleyball, although women's teams did not achieve varsity status until 1973, when track, cross-country, and gymnastics were added. In spite of there being no official women's team, Doris Brown became the first woman to compete for SPC when she ran in the first national NAIA cross-country meet in 1960. She went on to win 5 national and 5 world cross-country championships. She then came back to coach SPU's track team until 2007.
Remember that gym? Well, in 1953, a new gym was built and named the Royal Brom Pavilion. This gym still stands today.
Now we have the Orange Men to get the crowd pumped, but in the 1940s and 50s, it was all about the Yell Team.
In the last 30 years, SPU has won 5 men's soccer national championships, 3 gymnastics national championships, and in 2008 won the women's soccer national championship. Today we have 17 varsity sports as well as numerous intramural sports for all SPU students.
I can't return to.
But the Falcons aren't simply known for sports. Music and art have always thrived at SPU. There have been organized choirs since 1911, like the Victory Quartet, and numerous other instrumental groups, like the Ukulele Strummers.
Also early on, there was the art club, numerous literary societies, and students expressed themselves via the expression department. Today we have gospel choir, the jazz ensemble, the symphony, a robust theater program, studio and graphic arts, just to name a few.
Since early students could only leave campus by horse and carriage or a boat down the canal, they had to make the best of their life on campus. So they had maid parades and other campus activities.
But then you had to be back in the dorm by 10:15 sharp.
One tradition that is now unfortunately discontinued was the all-school boat trip.
In the 50s, much like SPU now, men occasionally wore dresses, freshmen were welcomed heartily, and there was true love. But most of all, they wore sweaters of distinction, which SPU students still do today, especially around Christmas time. Starting in the 30s, Seattle Pacific practiced something called demonstration. The male students would perform various athletic feats for the female audience. Fortunately, or unfortunately, the tradition has given way to talent show. It was a little shaky in the 80s, but I think we've got it now.
Back kick and reverse, famish chill time. Lay back demeanor, but got an ill grind. Cause I'm viewing the poison that's trying to fill minds. Gotta be careful, and life is full of field mines.
Seattle Pacific students of every decade have managed to combine their studies with service to their communities. The first club ever organized on campus was the Student Volunteer Missionary Society. SPU student service has greatly expanded since then. Sprint started in the 1960s to encourage students to serve internationally, and urban involvement was introduced in the late 70s to give students opportunities to serve right here in Seattle. Because of its commitment to the liberal arts, SPU has also always been distinguished by its academics.
Early students studied Latin, Greek, mathematics, and elocution.
Seattle Pacific College graduated its first class in 1915 with a total of 5 graduates. In 1936, with only 3 majors, the school was granted full accreditation as a 4-year liberal arts college, earning the name Seattle Pacific College.
Things boomed from there. SPU's renowned nursing program was started in 1950 in cooperation with the University of Washington, and the first master's degree in religion was granted in 1952.
In 1977, Seattle Pacific College finally became Seattle Pacific University. This was also the first year that computer science major was offered, which was pretty cutting edge at the time.
In 1996, Dr. Philip Eaton became the 9th president of SPU. President Eaton has had a huge impact on the university, shaping the common curriculum and pushing SPU students to get off their couches and engage the culture, and just maybe change the world as well.
83 years ago, Seattle Pacific seniors decided to begin a tradition of planting ivy on campus in order to leave their legacy. They left it all right. So much ivy grew that just a few years later, the tradition was switched to ivy cutting. Every year since then, graduating seniors have surrounded Tiffany Loop as the president cuts a piece of ivy for them, signifying that they too have become part of SPU history.
After more than a century, SPU is thriving while both changing and holding on to the traditions that have always defined it. Come on, join in.